Hello, hi, Elliot Fishman here, and hopefully we are live. I'm waiting for my thing to say live on the side here, and it now says I'm live. So, hey everybody, it's 22nd of August, feels like the 22nd of October. It's actually, if you're on the East Coast, a lot of the East Coast, surely in Baltimore and New York, temperature this morning, wake up was 55 degrees. We'll reach in the 70s today. Terrific weather. If you're in Texas, I saw it's over 110, 115. So some people are enjoying the late August. Now, of course, if you're a swimmer, you probably aren't that pleased because it's a bit chilly, and you like to have your pool. People who have pools have it opened at least through Labor Day and sometimes end of September. But I am sure if I look at my watch or if I look at my phone, it'll be a few more nice days. Then we'll be back into the 80s. So summer's not over yet, and often it comes back in September once kids go back to school and get super hot. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, some of you may have noticed that last week was the anniversary of Woodstock. Woodstock was the first big festival. It happened 1969, which is 55 years ago. So, a lot of the people are still around, some aren't. Jimi Hendrix, who was actually the number one star, at least on paper, got paid the most for Woodstock, passed away a couple of years after Woodstock. But a lot of the people, The Who, at least two of them, Peter Townsend, still alive and well and still touring 55 years later. And the Crosby, Stills, Nash, some of the guys are still around still and still touring. Graham Nash is still touring. And I see Lydiana's from New York, saying hi from New York. And, Woodstock was not really, it was supposed to be held in Woodstock, New York, and I've been there. Very nice area, but it was held in near White Lake, which is in the Catskills. And I was working that summer. First time I ever worked was in Swan Lake, which is about 3 miles down the road from Woodstock. And what I remember is all the cars. It's only one-lane highways, but there isn't that much traffic normally, but the traffic basically stopped because there was like close to 500,000 people all driving there. I expected maybe 100,000 at Yasgur's Farm, and you can go there now. It's an area of Bethel. They have music festivals there. They still have stuff, and it's still the Catskills. Those were the days when the Catskills were the Catskills. The comedians, the hotels, the busboys, the waiters. Now the Catskills, all those big hotels for decades now are gone. So life has never quite been the same there. What people forget about Woodstock is that it was literally 3 weeks or so after Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, and he did his spacewalk, One Giant Step for Mankind. And you forget that both of those things happened in a couple-week period. I remember it was very rainy that summer after the guys landed on the moon. I wondered if they kind of shook up the moon out of its orbit and it started raining during July and August, but that's a different story. And probably those couple footsteps and the little Apollo landing, Apollo 11, probably didn't make that much difference. But it's amazing how much can happen in a short period of time. Now, obviously, the landing on the moon was something, was hard to believe. People say it's fake. No, it's not fake. But you realize when John F. Kennedy took office in '61, he pledged we would land on the moon before the end of that decade. Now, he was not around to see it happen, and no one really believed we would land on the moon that time soon. Remember that the computers on Apollo 11, on my iPhone or iWatch, I have more computer power. How they actually got there, how they took off, how they landed with like 5 seconds of fuel to spare, and then for the first time they test that the lunar lander and it shoots up and they get away, and then they were able to meet the Apollo 11, which was circling around. All those things, it was kind of like a science adventure. It sounded like something out of Star Wars, not humanity, but probably was technology's most impressive. Now in 1969, there was not even a CT scanner. 1971 was the first scan that was done by Hounsfield. Today at Hopkins, we got a new scanner this week. We're doing training now, the photon scanner. So you think about photon scanning, some of you have it, but the point is, there's the newest generation of scanning. We went from the spirals, we went before that where the average acquisition time was a minute, reconstruction time with 10 minutes, and then we got fast with 10-second acquisitions when I first started. With a minute a slice reconstruction, you had 35 slices. Now with Force Flash, any of those scanners, you're getting 3,000 to 5,000 slices. Now I noticed, I sent a case over to my workstation yesterday, pulled it back. It was not only the number of slices, but it was the size of the slices. So normally, I forget what my hard drive is. It's like 320 gigabytes, not very large, but it holds 100 plus cases, 200 cases. So usually if I get a couple cases, it'll go from 19% full to 20% full. Here, I put 2 cases, it went from 15% to 70%. So I can maybe put like 5 cases on the computer, which is not going to happen. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but we haven't, you can't add memory to the workstation, so you got to be careful taking things off and not blocking things, particularly if it's automatically sent. You'll send 5 cases and then it'll crash your system. So it's not going to be a trivial problem, but we'll work on that another time. But this idea about change, Woodstock in many ways has never been reproduced. Now, of course, you can argue Taylor Swift was in London 5 nights in a row at Wembley, and she had 92,000 people every night. 92,000 times 5 is 460,000, not to mention the people outside. But 460 is more than was at Woodstock. So just fast forward 55 years, Taylor Swift equaled Woodstock, and she did that a couple hundred times this summer. So things change, and taste in music change. A lot of the music that was at Woodstock, still pretty good. Pretty good. The Who, CSNN, all of those things, John Sebastian, and a whole bunch of other people. Joan Baez was there. She's still there, still singing. So there's a lot of change, a lot stays the same, but I think progress in radiology, and that's how we connect radiology and Woodstock, is constant. It's not these one-time events, and then 55 years later you look back and say, man, that was good. And we can look back and say, amazing, Hounsfield came up with the idea of CT and people before him. Or you look at Madame Curie, the whole idea about radiation. You look at Hounsfield, you look at Rankin. Many moments will then last a lifetime as they impact lifetime. But you build on them. And in many ways, music, remember when Woodstock was there, I remember when I was working as a busboy, we had music because somebody had a player that played 33 1/3 records and 45s. The 45s were the single songs, right? 33 1/3 were the albums. You had a Victrola. Okay, then you went, then came cassettes, then came 8-tracks. What's better, 8-tracks or cassettes? Then you went to CDs. Now I have all my CDs, I have all my cassettes, I even have some of my records, the 45s, but now everything is streaming, right? So everything is streaming. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, you name it. You're not carrying around a few records with you, you're carrying around everything. It's a different time, but it's kind of building on success. Now, it's interesting, the new success, the streaming stuff, that people like The Who, people who own the songs, are getting a fortune of money from licenses. So that's great. Who thought that 50 years later you'd be rich, right? Songs you sang way back when, you're now getting the money. People, Bruce Springsteen sold the songs he wrote for $800 million. I mean, so it's just incredible. The people who wrote the songs have made a fortune. Catalogs are selling for a fortune. But, when you listen on Spotify, those people get paid for every time it's played. So it's like the gift that keeps on giving. But anyway, I think the good news is that radiology, it's Woodstock is now. I mean, there's lots of really good things going on. We're a little bit busy. Everyone's a little bit overworked. Every article, I get worn out by reading the articles about people being overworked, but it is true. Academic production is down, teaching is down. People are just trying to get the work done. But hopefully there'll be a Woodstock, and we'll moving forward, not moving sideways or standing still. The opportunities are really immense. New technology, AI, and I didn't even go into AI in this talk, but how we look at new technology with AI, the merging of pathology and radiology and genomics and radiomics, everything you can do is really very, very exciting. So I'll stop there and give it a thought. Maybe go play your Woodstock album while you're reading a couple articles that were just published. I don't know. That might be a good way of doing it, perhaps. And if you get nothing better to do, you can go upstate New York, go to Bethel, White Lake. You can see where Woodstock was. It's a big farm, a bunch of cows there. But there are some little buildings. If you go the right time, there's a music festival. There's often concerts. I've never been there, but I've been to Woodstock with my daughter and grandson a couple of years back, which is a little quiet town. They did not allow Woodstock to happen in Woodstock, but you couldn't call it Bethel. It was too late. The tickets were printed. So that's another story for another time. Anyway, with that, and I won't tell you, I was a busboy. It was the first year I was a busboy at the Swan Lake Hotel. I remember the owner was Sam Levine. That is a long, long time ago. But memories persist. And that's the good thing about memories, Paul Simon said, your memories are always a little bit changed. It looked Kodachrome, right? It looks a lot better in color in your mind than it really did look in black and white. So always something to remember. And with that, see you next week. Bye, guys.